Hello everyone. I just thought I'd introduce you to some of our alpacas. I'm filming from home today. This is Stevie and a couple of our younger boys, and that's Chaser over the back there, who's a bit shy because Chaser's not used to human contact so much just yet. But these three guys, as you can see, have got no trouble competing for the food that I'm handing them here. Just a little bit of lucerne and some pellets. Hello Chaser. That's Stevie there. Hello Stevie. Stevie's an anxious soul. These two young ones, who haven't got names yet, they're not anxious at all. But you can tell Stevie's a hungry character. Alpacas are extraordinary creatures. They're very hardy. They're related to camels and llamas. They don't get sick very easily. They're incredibly inquisitive animals. And they're very protective animals. Strong herd instinct. We've got a fox that lives in the area, and if these guys ever see that fox, they chase it. And if that fox was ever unlucky enough to be cornered by them, they would kill it. They're very, very protective. But they're gentle, generally speaking, if they're not being protective. They've got a fantastic language. All kinds of different noises used to communicate different emotions and concerns and desires, I guess. You can see how dry it is at our place at the moment. It hasn't rained here for about 6 weeks, and so there's really not much in the way of feed in the pasture. But in about another 6 weeks, it'll all be green again, because Gippsland is a very fertile place, and the rains come and everything changes. You might be asking why I've decided to film at home with some of my animals. I've been reading Albert Schweitzer's article on reverence for life, and Rosalie Hudson's article as well, on personhood and what it means to be a spiritual person, even in the absence of the cognitive abilities that we have, the decline of those abilities when we have dementia or some kind of brain injury. Even anxiety can interrupt our cognitive abilities. Hello Stevie. What is spirituality? And in particular, what does it mean to be spiritual when you have very little sense of self or time or memory because of the decline of your cognitive abilities due to dementia or Alzheimer's disease? What does it mean to be a spiritual person if you can't remember who your God is or what a God is, or you don't even know to ask that question anymore? What does it mean to be spiritual when you can't situate yourself in relationships, in relation to anyone else? You don't recognise anyone, you don't even know who you are yourself. Is life over? Is dementia what some people say it is? A kind of living death? Hello Chaser. I'm so encouraged by Albert Schweitzer's philosophy and theology, because he says spirituality is common to all living things. The first spiritual act comes from something that is implicit in our physiology, in our bodies. He says in his article, as you'll see, that you can recognise it even in the division of cells as you watch them reproducing themselves. And this means it's pre-conscious. Our spirit, our will to live, is not only part of our capacity to reason and to think, to construct stories and narratives, to remember and to imagine the future. It's implicit in our pre-conscious physiological processes, that will to live. And this we have in common with all living creatures. So here I am with alpacas. Here I am surrounded by this rather dry but beautiful landscape where I live. I'm very fortunate to live here. Because it reminds me of what Schweitzer calls that universal creative spirit, the one many of us call God. It is present in all of us, in our physiology. Before we even know it, before we are aware of it, we take a breath. Our heart is beating, our muscles are flexing and relaxing, our bones are moving, our blood is supplying oxygen and chemicals, messages to our brains. All of this happens without the freedom of decision making, but because we are naturally living spiritual beings. And I think this has incredible importance. This thought, this way of thinking has incredible importance for what it means to understand people who live with dementia, Alzheimer's disease, who cannot locate themselves in this sense. What it means for them to be spiritual and for us to offer them spiritual care. For us to live with them as our equals. To be able to establish mutuality in our relationships with them as we care. So a little bit of a tussle going on there, a bit of competitiveness, a strong and healthy will to live. Why don't we go and visit some other animals?